This video I'm going to answer the question, how well would I do against an MMA fighter? Got an email or a message from somebody. I was actually about to erase the message until I clicked on it, and then because I thought it was a hater. But actually it wasn't a hater, it was just somebody that just had a genuine question. And it was respectful. Just want to see my honest assessment of how I do against an MMA fighter. Well, see, my response doesn't really have to do anything with what I'm trying to do. Because I'm trying to inspire people towards a more peaceful expression in the martial arts. But even with that set aside, if I'm talking about what is a more effective way of fighting, MMA or street fighting, clearly street fighting with no rules is the most effective that it could possibly be. You don't even need to call it street fighting, that sounds brutal, but the way of nature, like natural law. Not man-made laws. Basically, what you see in the cage is man-made laws. Out there in nature, it's the natural law. Now, with natural law, it's not about me or the other person being better. It's about which way of fighting is the absolute which way of fighting is the absolute most effective. It is not the man-made way. It's the law of nature. So, in the law of nature out there, I could do whatever I need to do to survive a situation. But when you're restricted to the rules of this cage or this ring, that just limits your abilities. I mean, it's no different than what you guys are already seeing. Like, you got wrestlers that are just confined to these rules in wrestling. You got boxers that are just confined to this way of fighting. They can only use their hands in accordance to these rules. Now, MMA is just taking that to the further extent. Okay, you could do more of these things, but in that set of rules, there's still a bunch of rules that they have to follow. So basically, out there in the streets, like, or out there in nature, or just out there, when I'm being attacked, I could do whatever I need to do to survive it, even if it means pulling out a firearm and shooting the individual, or pulling out a weapon. Now, how I would do against an MMA fighter, I mean, it depends on which fighter you're talking about. I mean, we're just talking about some imaginary fighter that I don't even know which specific fighter that you would be talking about. I can't be like, just have an imaginary person in my head and say, oh, this MMA fighter. It's like, obviously, some of them work hard, right? They train hard. Now, they train with the specific purpose of, like, hurting people. Like, and they train really hard towards hurting people, and they hurt people for money. And that's part of their big motivation, is the money, the fame, the woman. That motivation keeps them, like, gives them that drive to hurt people. Now, how long would that last? It's not going to last too long. Because as soon as they start losing, or as soon as they start feeling that they're not at the top of their game, they're going to be falling off, and they're pretty much going to almost give up on life. You know, so, like, lose motivation. They're just going to fall off. You know, so the way that I train, there's no rush for me. I train at my own pace. There's no competition for me. So, you know, I really don't know how to answer that question, because MMA fighters, they're just athletic. So, but what they're practicing, the rules of what they're limited by is clearly not the most effective. I could utilize techniques that they're not allowed to utilize, and they're trained in ways of where they're limited by those rules. Like something that a normal person that's in danger would do naturally to survive, they're not allowed to do. And because they have this trained response to be limited by those rules, they're at a huge disadvantage. But for me, I don't have those limitations. I do whatever I need to do to survive that situation. So, like out there, basically, the way I see it, it feels out there with no rules. I see that I would win. But if it feels in there with their rules, then they might win. But it really depends on the situation. I don't really know how to answer the question because I wouldn't even ever accept a challenge from anybody. But if they just attacked me violently, then I just have to do whatever I have to do. But if they hit me without my awareness, they hit me from behind, more than likely they'll just stop me down, because once I get hit one good time, I might go down if I don't know the hit's coming. It's like just getting shot in the back or something. You know what I'm saying? So I'll tell you that these people are not the most athletic in the world. They're clearly not. And that's already showing another part of their lack of development. Because every specialized sport, MMA just clumps everybody together, but every specialized sport, they're not even the best at their sport. So how are they supposed to be the best in the world? You understand? Like, there's people in MMA that can't even make it to the Olympic level of wrestling. For example, I went to college at Purdue University. At that time, John Fitch was a Purdue wrestler. And then he ended up going to the MMA later on and became like one of the so-called best. But even at Purdue, he wasn't even nearly the best. He wasn't even the best wrestler in Purdue. And he not even close to being the best wrestler in all of colleges. So he can't even be the number one wrestler in the nation. But then you go into MMA and all of a sudden you're considered one of the best fighters in the world. I mean, it's just nonsense. It's like somebody that can't hang with the big boys in the NBA, so he joins this thing called like a mixed athletic club, where there's all these different athletes from different sports that come together, and then now he thinks he's the best. I mean, it's just nonsense. Because MMA clearly does not have the best boxers in the world. They don't have the best wrestlers. They don't got the best martial artists. They don't got the best anything. It's like, I bet you watch some of these Taekwondo videos with people that go to specifically Taekwondo tournaments. They're a lot more talented in Taekwondo than you'll ever find anybody in MMA. There's no top-notch talent in MMA because it's just a bunch of rejects. Yeah, they're athletic, but they're just a bunch of rejects. Now, as far as how I do against an MMA fighter, I don't have that much anger and aggression in me. I have some, but it takes a lot to get it out of me. But for them, they just fight. They just violent. They're on high alert of violent at all. They're on violent mode at all times. So their mentality is very dangerous. And my mentality is not that dangerous. I'm not as much of a threat. I'm basically not even a threat because I don't want to be violent. But if I'm pushed to become violent, then that's something I'm pushed to become. But I don't want to be violent. So if they just attack me on the street, like, I don't know what will happen. I really don't. So I mean, when it comes to real combat, all it takes is just one good hit and then it's done. And it's hard to predict who would win because it's just like almost anything could happen. It's like saying who would win a gunfight or who would win a knife fight or who would win a sword fight. You just really don't know because it boils down to like that one really good hit in a real fight. And depending on the situation will dictate that. So and another thing is I'm not claiming to be the best in the world or anything. I'm just training because I love to train. And standing up there in a pedestal like the way Bruce Lee did to claim, to pretty much claim that he's the best to ever live or whatever, there's no way that I could do something like that because I know that there's no such thing, and I know that there's so much more room for improvement. And not only that, but as I age, my physical abilities will diminish. Just like just like what happened to Michael Jordan and Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. So even if you think you're the so-called best in the world, it's only momentary. And because it's only momentary, it's just pointless. Now, I could say this with a fact of what I train in, what I practice, the way of the method, which is the way of natural combat, the way of real martial arts, it is clearly more effective than MMA. It will destroy MMA, the method. But as far as the individual is concerned, I can't say because I don't know how hard these people train. More than likely, they have to train harder than me because they're making all this damn money. But at the same time, they're putting their health at risk. And there's a much higher likelihood that I'm going to live longer. They might be like super fit at the top of the game at the age of 25, whatever the case may be. But they might die at the age of 50, where I might be living until I'm 100. Because I'm not putting myself in those types of dangerous encounters. Because hopefully I'll never have to fight until, before I die. But for them, they might have to fight 40, 50 times, and then now their brains getting all messed up, and then they just die early, and they lose their intelligence. Now, as far as physical fitness-wise, I just say it like this, if they're more physically fit than me, then you could just say that they'll win. There doesn't even have to be any bloodshed. And am I the most physically fit in the world? I know I'm not. Clearly I'm not. But at the same time, I know there's a lot of people out there that cheat. A lot of people take like steroids and Andro, whatever they can find out there, and even something that's legal like creatine. To me, I see that's cheating too. Because you got people that don't even that don't take it, and all of a sudden they take it, and all of a sudden they can bench press like 50 more pounds all of a sudden. It's just like, That's all bullshit. There's a lot of bunch of cheaters out there everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So, and I don't consider myself a traditional martial artist. I just consider myself, if anything, I'm just a martial artist living in modern times. The tradition basically may just be I'm not a traditional martial artist at all, because I advocate the use of firearms. So how's that traditional? And all the methods of my training are all modernized, as far as like the way of, you know, using weights and calisthenics, and just the way that I exercise is not like I exercise like just most of the people that you find in the gym. I don't just like lock myself away in a Shaolin temple or something like that. Look at the way that my uniforms. That's not traditional at all. I don't even have no belt ranking systems. I don't follow tradition. But what I do follow is the spirit of the martial arts. And I don't know if it's even right to call that tradition, but it's just the truth. I follow the truth. So I don't consider myself a traditional martial artist. I just see that there's just martial artists in modern times. I don't follow no tradition. I'm not following karate or jiu-jitsu or the old ways. This is a new way, under a new founder. And combat sport is not even martial arts to begin with. So, like, I train hard, but I don't overtrain, because there's no need to. And I don't need to compete with anybody. But I'll just say it like this, you know, if the people are more athletic than me, I'll just give them credit for that. But in a real fighting situation, it's so dynamic that you don't know what will happen. To me, it's just like a gun shootout. Anything could happen. You know, and you can't predict it. But, you know, clearly the MMA fighter is going to be more violent than me. They're going to be more willing to kill than I am. They're going to be more aggressive. But, see, this is another thing that I'm sick of, you know, it's like all these people, there's like hundreds of thousands of people that are watching the fighters, and some, you know, thousands of people that claim MMA, and then when anybody speaks against it, they try to put their top fighters. Oh, here's our top fighters. Let's see if he can match up with the top fighters. Just like majority of the people that watch this stuff and promote this stuff are like a piece of shit themselves. I mean, they're not even nearly like at a level of proficiency in anything. You know, and it's just a bunch of nonsense. Because what I'm trying to teach on is not even about who is better than who in physical combat. It's like Einstein, he's a scientist. It's not about him fighting against another scientist physically to prove that his theories are correct. The way of science in itself already indicates it. His experiments already indicate it. So I'm just basically saying that the way the martial arts is being expressed is not the true way within that cage. And I'm also saying that whatever they're practicing that's bound by all these rules is clearly not the most effective. because it has all these damn rules, and there are no weapons. Where the hell do the weapons go? You should act like there's no weapons in this world. You know, and it's just like, we're the multiple offenders. So clearly that the way that what they're doing is not the most effective. It may be effective, but it's not the most effective. And as far as the fighter's concerned, I already indicated that these individuals are not the most athletic in the world. There's no way, because they can't even become the best in their specific like area of specialty. You got wrestlers that go in there, they're not even the best wrestlers in the world. So how are they supposed to be the so-called best martial artists or fighters in the world? They're not even the best wrestlers. And you got the boxers that go in there, they're not even the best boxers. They can't even hold up with the real boxers. And then now they're supposed to be considered the best fighters in the world. It's just a bunch of nonsense. Seriously, they're not the most athletic. It's not the most effective fighting method. Clearly it's not. Because they're bound by all these rules and limitations. And they're just all being a bunch of violent people in there. And everybody's looking at, oh, these MMA fighters are so good. Well, all the people that are losing in the cage are considered MMA fighters as well. So the people that are losing in there are part of the garbage crowd of like no talent. So the people that are losing are considered MMA fighters too. And all these people that lose, it just shows like how much of a garbage it is. And everybody's just focusing on the people that win, and that these are representing the best fighters in the world. That is not the case. So it's just a big mess in there. They just throw a bunch of no-name people in there to fight. Like, you'll see like the best of the best within the specialized areas. Within boxing, like Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, Mayweather. The top people. Like, you gotta build yourself up to even fight them. But here they just throw a bunch of people like it's a blender or something, and then everybody's like winning and losing, and it's just like a big mess. It's just a huge big mess. One person gets a lucky punch, and then all of a sudden, he's considered the best, and then he loses next week, and then the week after that somebody else loses. It's just a big mess. It really is. They're not, if anything, they're not the best in anything. They're just, I don't even know what else to say. And just because, you're gonna people want to compare me to the best fighter in the world, or the best UFC fighter, or whoever in the world, they want to compare me to him, and if he beats me up, then that's better. That's not what it is. What I'm saying this is not even about the fighting. It's about what it's representing and how it's exploiting the martial arts. And clearly the way of the fighting method is not the best way, because it's bound by a bunch of rules. So, but in my situation, I'm not bound by rules. So you set me up with a fight with one of these MMA fighters out there, I say no, I don't want to fight, because that's what protects me that's what protects my personal safety. And then they want to fight me anyway, then I would just have my gun with me. And I'll be like, alright, we'll start from 20 feet away. Alright, I pull my gun out. I could use it if I want. And then if I use it, shoot them, boom, it's done. So I could use that because I'm not bound by the rules. So, but it's not like I'm going to do that, but that's what I can do if I want to. And that's not allowed in the cage. But I'm allowed to do it because I I have the right to defend myself in whatever way necessary in order to protect myself from that danger. As far as like pound for pound, like the most athletic in the world, well, if they're more athletic than me, then kudos to them. But hey, they might be on steroids or some other bullshit supplement, and it's not even a real development to begin with. So I don't know how else to answer that question. You know, I really don't. It's just a bunch of nonsense what I see that's going on in there. Just a bunch of nonsense. Like just rejects in football that can't be the best football player or one of the best football players. They just go into MMA and fight. And then now they want to say that they're one of the best fighters in the world. It's just a bunch of stupid nonsense. Rejects in football, rejects in wrestling, rejects in boxing, rejects in kickboxing, rejects in Muay Thai, rejects in Taekwondo, rejects in everything, and then they go in there and they want to claim themselves to be the best in the world. It's just a bunch of nonsense. You can't even be the best at this, and then you want to claim yourself to be the best in this? All it is just people figuring out, figuring out what they need to do to exploit the other person's weakness. That's all it is. Like a wrestler goes against a boxer. Oh, I know that he doesn't like wrestling, so I'm gonna take him to the ground, so I win. And then a boxer, knows that he's fighting against a wrestler. Oh God, I'm just gonna make him stay on his feet so I can bash him out. It's just exploiting the weakness. That's all it is. And then whoever can find the weakness, then they win for that situation. But then there's going to be somebody else in there that specializes in something else, and they're going to try to exploit it. And then, it's just a bunch of nonsense. I just don't respect what's going on in there. And really it has nothing to do with me being the greatest in the world or anything like that. I'm just saying that what's going on in there is it's not a responsible way of expressing the martial arts. They're just a bunch of violent fools in there. And they need to find a more peaceful expression, but it's not going to happen. It'd be better if they just let them fight out there in the streets or in nature, and just to have no rules. And hey, if you wanted to, you could do that right now in your backyard. Just set up your own tournament and just have people fight all out. No rules. Let the ambulances come, let the police come if they need to. Let somebody die. And then that will be an experiment to see what really works. Bring whatever weapons you want. And that's pretty much what it is. That's what the gang violence is. So that's the reality of the situation. A gangbanger can come kill me at any time. Now how am I going to stop that? There's not that much I could do. So that's the reality of real violence. So I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else. I know I'm not the best fighter in the world because I don't even consider myself a fighter. I'm not the best martial artist in the world because there is no such thing. Well, is one MMA fighter better than me in whatever they do? I don't know. It depends on which one you're talking about. In order to figure that out, we don't even have to hurt each other. I could just say spar with the person. I already know whether or not, I'd be able to handle the person in a real situation. And that's it. I don't know what else. But I say that most of everybody that's watching this stuff, they're scrubs. There's a bunch of scrubs. You got like 10 so-called best fighters, and then you got like 1,000,000 scrubs that are following these 10 fighters. Just nonsense. So, that's all I gotta say.